sometimes people are so consumed with what was taken away from them that it keeps them stuck in the past and keeps them away from seeing what they have right now and being grateful for it. Are you still in your past? Are you in your present? Or are you constantly in the future?
One day when I save up enough money for that beautiful purse, then I'll be happy. One day when I graduate and I become a doctor, then things will be awesome. One day when I finally get my promotion, one day when I finally meet that special person, then everything will be okay. And then that one day comes and we don't even stop to acknowledge it, and we keep on chasing.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of In the Clear, where we aim to give you clarity on all aspects of your life, including a very balanced, logical, and emotional approach. Today's episode is going to be on the power of gratitude. As you are on your journey to wherever it is that you're headed in life, whether this has to do with a relationship you're in, with your career, with a place in life, a milestone, whatever it is, we're going to talk about the importance of being grateful every single day, along every single step, until you get to that point. Don't reserve gratitude for when you reach your goal. Be generous with it every single day and with every single step that you take. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of being grateful every single day is my journey with writing. So right now I could say I've published 5 books. My 6th one is coming next year. You know, I talk about books as if this is my new normal. You know, I have another book coming out, and then sometimes I'll be sitting with someone and this topic comes up and they know I'm a writer and they hear I've written 5 books and I just finished the 6th one. And they say, oh my God, that's amazing. And I forget that because now I'm at a point where that's just a normal part of my life. But I forgot how difficult it was at the beginning to get to this point. And I don't think I could have gotten here without gratitude along the way. Because back then, when I self-published my very first book, if 10 people bought it, I was so happy and so grateful. If someone left a positive review, like I rejoiced, I celebrated that. If an author that I really admire reached out to me and said that they read my book, oh my goodness, I would be so grateful. So I honestly do believe that gratitude was one of the most powerful drivers that got me to where I am right now. Because if I sold 10 books, I could have had the ability to say 10 books is nothing. Like, I'm only going to wait until I can start selling hundreds of thousands of books but I didn't say that. 10 books? That's amazing. That's 10 people who decided that they wanted to have my words that came out of my struggle and my pain in their hands and they want to read them. So the reason I wanted to say or talk about perspective, like if I put myself back then, in my shoes back then, I'm able to put myself in someone's shoes right now who's starting on that journey to write. So if I could give them advice, I would say, be grateful for every little thing that happens, even the doors that close. Be grateful for them. When I think of how I was self-published at first, I would hear from people things like, well, you're self-published, like you don't have a publisher behind you. And at the time, I would say things to myself like, well, I'm doing pretty great. I have the power and control over distribution. I can choose how much money I want to use from the revenue that was coming in to do marketing, to do any kind of publicity. You know, I saw the greatness in being self-published. And when I started working with a publisher at the time, who's not my publisher right now, I remember missing the days that I was self-published. I appreciated many of the things that publishing brought into my life, but I missed so many aspects of having so much more control over my books, over my writing, over where my books went, over what lists they were under. So sometimes it helps to look at the adversity that you think you're in, or at the disadvantage that you think you're in, and ask yourself, which perspective am I looking at it from? Because you could turn it around to be a positive. So sometimes I'll have authors who are self-published who will reach out to me and say, I really want to be published. And I say, why? Really? Why? Is it because you think it's going to add to your name, your credibility? Are you really sold on what being published does for you? Are you coming from a place of looking down upon yourself as an author because you are self-published? What's the reason? Really reflect on that. Because be grateful for where you are so that you could get to a better place. Because I feel like gratitude is one of those things where the more you have it, the more it attracts into your life. Absolutely. And the less you have it, the more it takes away from your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I call it the power of your focus. And you and I often talk about the attention coins. We only have so many. Whatever you focus on, I believe you see more of, and that's the power of the reticular activating system. I had a conversation with my son, Calvin, years ago about the RAS, reticular activating system, that part of our brain that helps filter out pretty close to 95 or 93% because our brain would be overwhelmed. So it just lets in what is important to us at this moment. And in order to make it a bit more visual with my son, who is quite familiar with YouTube, and back then TikTok wasn't out, but now the algorithm of TikTok is, in my opinion, quite powerful.
It is, yeah.
And the analogy was your reticular activating system, what you focus on, feeds you more of whatever you choose to focus on. So if you're searching on YouTube for cats, well, you're going to watch a bunch of videos about cats. Well, over time, the algorithm will know that you like cats, and it'll keep on feeding you videos of cats. And when you change your focus slowly over time, initially, the algorithm will keep on squeezing in there from time to time a video about cat, even if you're no longer interested in cats, because it's been conditioned over time that, hey, cats were important to you. We have to make sure we let that in. We have to make sure that we feed you that. But over time, it'll stop showing you any videos of cats because it understands that this is no longer important for you. And our RAS is a bit like that. So when you say the more you have it, the more you focus on gratitude, the more you see it, it's absolutely true.
Yes.
I created what I call some kind of a hack. It's a protocol. So it's called the I Am Clear protocol. By now you understand that I like acronyms. And I Am is quite simple. It's kind of like, I call it I Am 360 because 3 times per day for 60 seconds, you do this protocol. I've been doing this daily for years. I teach it. It's part of my Clear method. So the acronym goes as follows. The I is for imagination. So every day, take 60 seconds, I do it in the morning, to imagine yourself doing and being what you want to be in life. The A is for appreciation, being grateful. Take 60 seconds in the afternoon to think about what you are appreciative of. I believe that what you appreciates. The more you look at it, the more you see it, the more you're appreciative, the more you're going to realize that, hey, you know what? I'm really blessed. And we are truly blessed. First, to be in an era where we have access to technology like this. First, to be in an era where we have AC, air conditioning. Like all that we have today, really, when we take a moment to think about it, we are truly blessed. We have so much to be grateful for. I kind of see it as a stack of reasons to be appreciative. Well, we need to stop focusing on the lack and start focusing on that stack. And that redirects our focus. The M in the I Am protocol is mantra. So every day, take 60 seconds, could be at night, in the evening, and repeat the mantras that will help you reinstall new mental models that will help you go where you want to go. Instead of thinking by default, advertising works. football, hockey, tennis, advertising works. The reason why they're spending billions per year, all these organizations, to advertise, and they build together campaigns to get to you, it's because it works. Now, some organizations build campaigns to get us to do things that they want us to do. We need to learn how to build our own campaigns of advertising. And mantra is one part of that, just to install new thinking models. And so that protocol, the I am protocol, the A part is for appreciation. And the reason that I squeeze that in there, appreciation or being grateful, is because the more I consciously choose to focus on what I'm appreciative of, the more my reticular activating system, the hack, will let that in and will keep on reminding me of how blessed I truly am. Because you and I, as entrepreneurs, as speakers, as authors, we want to achieve, we want to build, we want to have an impact. We are chasers, and chasing is good. But from time to time, we need to stop and look how far we've come. What's the point in always chasing if we're never grateful for the little wins along the way? And these wins add up. Even when I coach about self-esteem or self-image, I say one quick hack is to write a list of the wins that you've had. You're down on yourself right now. You're judging yourself because you failed at one thing. But in reality, over the last 10, 20, 30 years, you have multiple wins, multiple victories and successes, but you don't focus on them. Right now, this failure is so huge in your mind, you're forgetting all the wins. But if you add them up, if you take your pen and a piece of paper and write down a list of wins, you'll start remembering, hey, you know what? I'm not that much of a failure after all. I'm looking at this and I'm quite somebody. I am someone. It's just a matter of redirecting your focus on what you really appreciate.
That's so powerful. I think it's going to help so many people. And at one point in my life, I realized that so many of the decisions I was making for myself were very subconsciously due to the decisions that others already made for me, or the rules that others already dictated for me subconsciously. Like this was after I discovered who I am and accepted who I am. I still had, it was like a cage within a cage where I left the first cage to remind myself that I have the power to live my life the way that I want. But I was still living in a bigger cage of rules I couldn't break, or I thought I couldn't break, and boundaries that I couldn't get past, and barriers that just were supposed to keep me in that confined place. Decisions like you should get married at a certain point. You should have children at a certain point. You should be aiming for those things as big goals in your life. And I remember telling you this because I got very emotional when I realized that all this time I'd been saying, I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want this. I want that. And it wasn't really me who wanted those things. I never asked myself if I wanted those things. I thought I wanted them because everyone around me decided, not everyone, but many people around me decided that that is where I should be headed in my life. So I never asked myself those questions. So to bring this back to gratitude, making that realization got me to a point where I asked myself, why is it that I trust the judgment of those who are older than me, who have more life experience than I do? Why do I trust them more than I trust myself? Why do I trust their judgment more than I trust my own judgment? Why do I think that if they have an opinion on something, my opinion isn't of equal value? Why? Because there was that lack of trust in myself, and this is not to blame myself. Am I responsible for it? We talked in a previous episode about responsibility. Yes, I'm responsible for it, but I'm also responsible for changing it. I'm responsible for changing how much I trust myself and how I balanced trusting myself with trusting others, because there was a huge imbalance. It was like others, I trusted them up here. And if they made mistakes in the path they were leading me on, I gave them that grace, but I never gave that to myself. So I decided to write down a list of all the times in my life that I made decisions for myself that turned out to be great.
Nice.
And I did that.
Isn't that empowering?
Yeah. And then in the second column, I wrote down all the decisions and beliefs that other people came up for me and how wrong they were. Or other people that I trusted so much, the decisions they made for themselves that turned out to be not so great.
That's the kind of list that you have to keep forever.
Yeah.
And look back.
I know exactly where that list is. It made such a huge difference for me, because I was showing myself that I needed to be grateful for my ability to do the right thing for myself. I had evidence that I had the ability to make the right decisions for myself that would yield results that were in my best interest. And so every time I feel a little bit shaky with moving forward with a decision that I can see and sense there's resistance around me from the people I look up to, or that I looked up to for so long, I go back to that list and I say, remember who you are. Remember what you've done. Remember what you've accomplished. Remember how powerful you are in deciding for yourself. And the gratitude part, to say, I'm grateful for myself. I'm grateful for in my position, I would say, I'm grateful for my heart, because I'm such a big feeler, right? I'm grateful for my ability to pause anytime I feel an emotion, and instead of brushing it off like I did for so long, now I say, hold on, this is big, Najwa, you are going through something. I am grateful for my ability to pause and tune in and give myself the listening, the understanding, the compassion, the empathy that I need, the guidance that I need, the hard pill to swallow that I need, you know? I'm grateful for my ability to balance that logical brain that has always said, we talked in a previous episode, like, always use your logic and never feel. What was it, that the way that you said it?
Well, some of us feel first, think later.
Yeah.
Others think first, feel later, right?
Think first, feel never.
And yeah, that's right. That's right. That used to be me. That used to be me.
Yeah. So I'm grateful for my ability to, yes, think, and yes, do the right thing and decide to do the right thing. But at the same time, I'm grateful for my ability to feel also. I'm grateful for my ability to inform my mind with my emotions and inform my emotions with my mind. Like, how powerful is it to do that? It's like I'm standing in front of the mirror and saying, thank you. Like, that's so huge. You're not waiting for someone to say, thank you for being who you are. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for deciding that. Thank you for guiding yourself along the way. You are saying that to yourself. So gratitude to yourself, not just about yourself, but toward the world around you. You can also say, I'm grateful for the opportunities that have come my way. I'm humble enough to say that I'm aware that not every person out there gets these opportunities. Like, I would be very naive to say that any person out there who wants to become, for example, a singer can become a singer.
Of course not.
Because some people are born with a talent that accelerates the speed at which they become a singer. And some people, no matter how hard they try, they're never going to have the voice that's needed or the musical coordination that's needed. So be grateful for the opportunities that come your way, that you are very aware not everybody has this opportunity. Not everybody's born with this talent. Be humble enough to say, I know what came my way. I'm not blind to it, and I don't feel like I'm entitled to it. So
I'd also add to that, to be grateful for the opportunities, like you say, but also I think it's important from time to time to be grateful for us recognizing and taking advantage of the opportunities. That is a thing too. We're allowed to give ourselves a tap on the back from time to time and recognize that we do have some credibility. So many folks see opportunities but don't take action and they go by. So yes, thank you so much for the opportunities. We are grateful for that. But also thank you for the fact that I took advantage of the opportunity and I made something of it. I play a part in this success. It's not always just depending on the circumstances and what's presented to me, but I also play a big part. And to be appreciative of our decisions, like you were doing, you made a list of good decisions that helps you focus back on, hey, you know what? Yes, from time to time, I'll do a decision that is so-so, let's call it like that.
Yeah.
But in reality, there's a full list of evidence that I make a lot of great decisions.
Yeah, I think
so it just redirects your focus.
I think everybody listening should make those two lists, the I am, the imagination, the appreciation, the coming up with a mantra, and the list that I made with all the evidence from your life that the decisions that you made worked out, and that even when they didn't work out, you figured them out. And make a list of all the decisions that others made for you that you trusted or made for themselves that didn't work out. I think that can really change a person's perspective. One other thing I was thinking about with gratitude is when you practice gratitude, you see the good that's coming your way so much more. And I'm going to elaborate on that. If you practice saying, I'm grateful for this beautiful thing coming into my life, or I'm grateful for being granted this opportunity, that means you know the value of that. That means when you are no longer getting those opportunities and then you do, you recognize it. I think some people are so blind to all the great things that happen in their life until they no longer happen. And then they say, what happened? You know, they lose their ability to see the good or great thing that happens in their life. Some people have a great job, a great relationship, a great house or environment that they're living in, a great social circle. But there's one thing that's going wrong in their life, that they don't make as much money as they would like to make. And they forget to be grateful for all the other things that they have in their life. And they're so focused on how bad, or they're so focused on not practicing gratitude for even this thing that we see as scarce, and saying, you know, maybe at least I have the ability to spend a little bit of money on myself and the people I love. At least I'm making some money. But no, you're only seeing the negative, and it's also making you like put an X on all the other great things that are going on in your life. And then that relationship dies. That social network that you have dies because you are so down and negative about that one thing in your life.
They focus on the lack instead of focusing on the stack.
Exactly. And then when the stack goes away, when the good goes away, you say, where did it go? Well, where were you this whole time? Where was the gratitude you showed? Because through your actions, through your lack of appreciation and lack of gratitude, you were telling those people in your life and those networks in your life and that job and the job security and that house that you could care less about them. So you manifested a reality where those things actually didn't exist in your life anymore because you never, ever, ever showed the appreciation for them. So be careful what you're not grateful for before you lose it.
It's a condition. Taking things for granted is a condition.
Yes.
And appreciation, being grateful, is a superpower against taking things for granted.
Yeah.
Too often we have so much, but we are blinded, a word that I learned from you a couple of years ago, by the fact that we are focusing on the lack. We are always chasing. We want more. We wanted that beautiful purse. Now we have it. And now we get home, we take the purse, we just toss it as if nothing. But
Yeah.
it used to be a time where one day when I save up enough money for that beautiful purse, then I'll be happy. One day when I graduate and I become a doctor, then things will be awesome.
Yeah.
One day when I finally get my promotion, one day when I finally meet that special person, then everything will be okay.
Yes.
And then that one day comes and we don't even stop to acknowledge it and we keep on chasing right by that one day. And so this is why so often I say today is one day. We need to stop and say, hey, today is one day for all kinds of things. The chair that you have, the home that you have, the job that you have, the health that you have, that you were so wishing for at some point, now you have it. Take a moment to appreciate, redirect your focus on the stack instead of on the lack.
Yes.
And when you have that grateful mindset, when you're appreciative, I truly believe that you start seeing more of what you already have. And by default, you start getting more of what you already have instead of always focusing on the lack.
Yes.
And acknowledging that I'm without.
Yeah.
You're with a lot already. And often I find we also, unfortunately, I could say, wait for tragic moments to remind us, hey, I've been taking all of this for granted for too long.
Yeah.
I've had a few of these traumatic or tragic moments in my life, some of which happened in this last year. 11 months ago, I was in my home, had to call 911, be rushed into the hospital because of a heart condition which I didn't know I had. We postponed recording some of our episodes because 2 weeks ago, I also had to call 911, be rushed into the hospital for this same heart condition. And when you are treated for your heart, when your heart is racing between 203 beats per minute to 230 beats per minute, and nothing can stop it, the intravenous, they're shooting in the cardizem, a drug to slow down your heart, and it's not working. And they say, we're going to have to stop your heart and reset it. We're going to give you electrical shocks, and we're hoping it's going to work. What goes through your mind during these moments is, this could be it. This could be the final moment of my life. So when it does work and your heart gets back in balance the way it should work, you come out of the hospital and you're like, geez, this could have been it.
Yeah.
That was my case 2 weeks ago again. And it's a condition that will happen again. So when you have that perspective, you're like, hey, you know what? Take the time to appreciate what you have. The moments that you are going through, positive or negative, are all you have. Take the time to appreciate it. Don't take all of that for granted. Your family, your job, your health, especially your health. Because once it's taken away, you are quickly reminded that you should have been grateful for what you had, which is no longer there. So I don't think we need to wait for these tragic moments or traumatic moments to choose consciously to be more appreciative and redirect the focus on the stack, what we currently have, versus always chasing the lack.
Yes. But how many people get that tragic moment and it doesn't wake them up to what they should have been grateful for, or it does for a day or two and then they revert back. So it has to be a conscious choice at one point to say, I've taken for granted what I've had for so long. I'm not going to do that anymore. I would like to be more appreciative of it, to take care of my health, to take care of whatever it is that I neglected for so long or didn't take the right kind of care of. So one thing that crossed my mind as you were talking is how sometimes people are so consumed with what was taken away from them that they no longer have, that it keeps them stuck in the past and keeps them away from seeing what they have right now and being grateful for it. It's like there's always something in their mind that says, I can't be grateful for what I have now because look at what I had before and it's just no longer there. That was so much better than this. It's like people experience that with their jobs, for example. Maybe they got laid off from a job they had for 20 years and they were so happy in it. And now there's a new job that they didn't even give a new chance to say, maybe I'll like this or love it or like it as much as I like the other one. they just immediately say, I'm not going to like this new job as much as I liked the other one. Or people who leave a 15, 20-year relationship, same thing. I'm never going to have what I had with that person. Or even if I do, it's going to end up in the same way. All of that takes you away from expressing gratitude and feeling it first and foremost. So I think it's important for whoever's listening to reflect on where they are operating from. Are you still in your past? Are you in your present? Or are you constantly in the future? Because it's not healthy to be always in the past, and it's not healthy to be always in the future. And it's also not 100% healthy to stay in the present at all times. Sometimes you do have to think of the future and let that guide your present, for sure. Sometimes you do have to be guided by the past and what happened in it to shape your present in a way. But make sure that you're not constantly spending all of your time in one of those places, because each one of them will have a detrimental effect. If you can be grateful in the present while you remember the past or while you think of the future, but as long as you're aware that all that I have in my control right now is now, what I can say I'm grateful for now. So yes, maybe the goal that I'm working towards is one that I will only get to in 3 or 4 or 5 years. Let's say your goal is to become a doctor. You know you have to go through school for X number of years. You know that you can't start practicing as a doctor right now. So in this way, your future is telling you, you are headed towards me. But with where you are right now, you can't hate it, because this is part of the future that you're building.
It's the beginning of the journey.
Yeah. So express gratitude on day 1 and on day 10 and on day 300 and on day 1000 until you get to wherever it is that you are aiming to get. And that's when you will be able to fully own that, the series of decisions you made to get to that place.
So to be appreciative for the journey as well as the destination.
Yeah.
Not to withhold gratefulness or gratitude until the destination, but along the way to realize that this is what will take you there.
Yes.
Be grateful for these parts as well.
I also think that gratitude, whether it's felt or expressed or received or given, it can never, ever be negative. Like I just thought about that right now. It's
certainly
just
always appreciated by people around you.
Yeah.
If you have folks that are ungrateful for something you're doing, you're like, you don't necessarily feel like doing it again as much as if you have a person that is grateful. You're always appreciative of people that are grateful.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like I'm reflecting on this one friend of mine. This was years ago. We also had the same kind of clash with emotion and logic. I was always the one that brought in the emotion to the conversation that we were talking about, and he was always the one.
Are you saying we have clashes?
No, with emotion and logic, absolutely we do. So this friend of mine one day said to me, I'm so grateful that every time I say something that's really logical, because that's my default, you always give me that new perspective. Like, I think he was going through a breakup where he was thinking very logically, and he was the one who was initiating the breakup. And he talked to me about it and said, it's long distance, and when I first met her, like, I was willing to do anything to be with her, and we planned our whole future together. It was a serious relationship, and it meant a lot to him. He said, but I'm thinking about it logically, and I'm like, it's long distance. I still need to get through school. She still needs to get this degree in this program in the country that she's in. And logically speaking, what are the odds that we're going to make it till then?
Didn't make sense.
Yeah, and he was saying it to me as if, like, I'm going to be the friend who's going to say, yeah, you're 100% right. Like, you do you. And I was like, hold on. I'm imagining what it would feel like to be the girl in this situation, to be told, yes, we planned a future together. Yes, I told you I love you. Yes, I told you let's get married and have kids. Yes, I told you I'll do anything. I'll come visit you every chance I get. I'll come visit you in the summers. You come visit me whenever you can. Yes, I told you all of that. And I gave you the assurance that we could build something like this. And now out of the blue, I'm pulling the rug right from under you and telling you, I don't think that we can do it. And that's it, the end. No conversation, no making the decision together. I've made the decision. I said, what are you doing? I thought at the time that my friend would be offended or would say, like, how are you not supporting me? But he went quiet and he thought about it. And he was like, you know, I really appreciate that you always bring in a different perspective that I never thought about. Like, wow, like it's like you woke up the human inside of me, because I was so led by my logic that I forgot how I feel about this woman and how it would make her feel to hear all of those things. And, you know, I was being very selfish because I was only thinking about myself and from my perspective. I didn't think of the possibility that maybe she would have a solution to it. Maybe she's willing to compromise on something. I just was going to tell her, I decided that this is not going to work because of X, Y, and Z. So hearing that from my friend when he said, you know, I really appreciate this, or I'm really grateful for your spin on emotions and stuff, it gave me a different level of confidence, I think, over time, that this side of me is great and is needed and is valued and appreciated by other people. And this was a long time ago, long before I could have given myself that confidence. What I knew was this friend respected me enough to welcome my opinion. This friend gave me the safety to express myself, but I didn't know whether that self of mine or that perspective of mine was 100% going to align with what he was going to say or think. So gratitude, in a way, allowed me to continue to grow this side of me and to continue to assert myself in this way.
Just like it did as an author initially, which is what you were saying.
Yeah.
These small moments of gratitude back then kept you going.
Yeah.
To the point where finally you're an established author.
Yeah. Like, I look back at pictures, there were times when I would reach out to individual bookstores and say, would you take my books on consignment? And, you know, I would walk into a bookstore and see like so many titles that I couldn't even count that were just readily available on the shelf. I could have said, I deserve to be up there next to them. I went into the store and I said, would you put a few copies in your store on consignment? We'll take 10 copies. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. My books are in a bookstore.
Yeah.
My books are in 2 bookstores. My books are in 10 bookstores. Or would it be okay with you if we arranged for a book signing here? I'll bring all my posters. I'll tell people to come. I'll do all the advertising. Would you be willing to give me the space to come and do a book signing here? Sure. We'll give you 2 hours on a Monday night and do what you can. I'm so grateful. Like, I genuinely remember being so happy. I would come home from teaching. I designed the posters, sent them to Staples, made them into, like, they blew them up. I got my own stands for them. I made little cards that had a quote on them that people could take so that they could remember me. I put out like a sheet of paper or many on top of each other with, you know, put your name, your email, subscribe to my mail list. Like, I started from scratch and I was so excited about all of it. Like, I was so happy that I had the opportunity to be able to do that. I was happy that I had my own car so that I could do all of that. And I spent a lot of money at the beginning, but I didn't see it as, you know, I'm investing so that I could make more money. It was more like I'm investing in what makes me feel alive and makes me feel like I have a purpose. I was so happy.
Yeah.
So I really wouldn't have been able to get to this point and be who I am today. I could have been another person. I could have not been writing. My life would be completely different. But with where I am right now and the way I am right now, it was because of the gratitude I had for all the little things along the way and the things that it attracted into my life, because it's like the universe was like, look at how happy she gets at the littlest, tiniest thing. Let's give her a little bit more, you know? That's what happens.
I feel like we've used gratitude almost as a tool. I've certainly integrated it in the I am protocol, appreciation, at least 60 seconds. I say 60 seconds because often people are like, well, I don't have a lot of time. Reality is, if we can't take 60 seconds to focus on what we already have and that we are grateful for, maybe we should reschedule the way that we go about work or everything else. But as we evolve, I guess we take more than 60 seconds. Personally, I take a bit longer every day. But I've used it as a hack or as a tool. And same for you, where you've learned that gratitude helps you do things, accomplish things, become more. And now you understand how powerful gratitude is. So it's not just a let's hold hands and kumbaya and we want to be grateful. That's okay. But now it's a bit more, hey, you know what? Let's be intentional about how grateful we must be in order to be fulfilled.
If there is anything we want you to take away from this episode, is that gratitude really is a tool. It's a practice. It's not just a word on paper. It's like when people talk about affirmations and mantras, and they categorize them as long as I did this or said this or wrote this down, that's all that matters. You have to believe it on a cellular level. You have to mean it, and you have to practice it.
Yeah, you need repetition.
Yeah. Which brings us to the point where I'm going to tell you the two most powerful things that I learned from you today. The I am protocol, I think, is beautiful. So to wake up and imagine where you would like your life to be, or something that you would like to have in your life, or to imagine how you would feel being in that state, and to write down what you appreciate about what's happening in your life right now, and to come up with a mantra, like for yourself. It could be whatever you need to hear. There was one teacher at a school where I used to substitute teach, and every time I would go to her class, she had a little book that she would turn the page every day, and it would give her a new affirmation or a quote or something. But right next to that, on her own piece of paper, she had written, "Let it go." So that's what she was seeing every single day. It meant something to her to be reminded to let it go, whatever that was. A thought, a student, showing negative behavior, or saying something that was inappropriate, or not doing their work, whatever that meant to her in her personal life or in her career. She needed to see that every single day, on top of that subconscious flip of a paper that gives you a different quote every day. But she needed, let it go. So come up with your own mantra, whatever it is that you need to hear on a daily basis. When you said we don't focus on the stack, we focus on the lack, it's true. Like, you could have 99 people believe in you, and the one person who doesn't, you focus on them. How could you change their mind? Or you could have 99 reasons to be happy, but there's one thing wrong going on in your life, and you just focus on that. It takes 99% of your energy. So for me, the lesson was focus on the stack, not on the lack. Deal with the lack, but to the same level that it is adding to your life. If it's adding this much, focus on it this much. Don't focus on it this much because you think that it's taking over the actual this much that you have in your life. Just meet it where it is. Yeah.
To me, I'd say one of them is your list of decisions. That is really, really cool. and it's something that you did consciously. It became a tool that still serves you today. But how powerful is that, to have evidence in front of you as to how many great decisions you have made in your life? That to me is taking a moment to acknowledge and be appreciative of the stack of what you already have. There are no bad parts, like we've talked about in the different episodes. We have a lot to be grateful for, but to take the time to make a list of good decisions, or make a list of what you are grateful for, if you need to be reminded from time to time, that I feel is very, very powerful. And something else is to be grateful for the journey, not just the destination. So when you're saying along the way, it's actually one of the reasons why you are an established author today is because you were able to use gratitude in little doses at the very beginning of your career. And that served you and helped you be where you are today.
Yes.
So that's very powerful. And I hope that our listeners and viewers take some of these takeaways home and put it into practice. Because sometimes we hear conversations, maybe we have triggers, but if we don't take the time to try to put it into practice, it's all for nothing. Knowing is not enough. We have to go to the other side and start doing, putting it into action. Acquiring all kinds of knowledge is a good start, but if we don't do anything with it, it's not going to change much. So the last thing I'd like to say, which is not one of my takeaways, is that I am extremely appreciative to have met you.
Aww.
We've had a great friendship for about 4 years. We've had many conversations. And honestly, your thinking, or more your feeling has helped me review the way that I think. It is a goal of mine to have more empathy, to have more compassion. I've shared in a different episode that I had a shame muscle that was very well developed, but compassion muscle towards myself was not developed at all for some time. And having had 2 kids, a daughter and a son, often I feel that as a dad, I did not show enough compassion towards them. To me, I'd hear their story and I'd hear the pain, and sometimes I'd be quick to point to a solution, when in reality, I should have just waited and listened more and say, hey, you know what? That sounds horrible. And I hear you and I get it. And through talking with you, to you, that's natural. You are an empath. My wife is as well. She feels, she has a lot of compassion. She's very generous. But I just want to say that I'm very, very grateful to have met you. And I'm also very grateful that we have the opportunity to work together and hopefully impact a bunch of people.
I know we are already doing that. I'm also very grateful for you. And I think sometimes I found in talking to you that you remind me of things about myself that I forget often, because I get so consumed in the emotion in the moment, and I'm really hard on myself. As much empathy and compassion as I can have for others, sometimes I forget to practice that towards myself. And there are times, many times, I can't even count, that you've sent me, a list of what you see my future looking like, or that you've said to me, some of the things that you've overcome, like most people won't have to go through that in their life. And I forget that, really. So I really appreciate your ability to walk through the emotions, or maybe push them to the side a little bit and see life clearly, and see me clearly, and see whatever topic at hand clearly. So I'm really grateful to you as well. And we are grateful to everybody who is listening and watching, and all the feedback that you have been leaving, and the commentary and the engagement and the shares. We are grateful for all of that. On that note, please subscribe to us on all social media platforms if you haven't already, or the ones that you use at In the Clear. Also subscribe to In the Clear on all podcast streaming platforms. Continue to leave us your feedback. Continue to reach out to us. Tell us what topics you would like to hear more on. And until next time, have a wonderful day.